So I'm going to actually show you my personal feed. These are my personal feeds. I just took screens of, this is my Instagram channel. This is what Tina sees when she logs onto Instagram. This is my Twitter channel. This is what Tina sees when she logs onto Twitter. Here's my Facebook. And here's my LinkedIn. And so the content is very different on each channel. You see lots of pictures of, real big faces. You see lots of articles. You see lots of sort of corporate and brand information on Twitter. But this is what we're trying to break through. I'm sure each of your channels are all personalized to you, and each of yours you could do the same scroll with. This goes fast, right? When I scrolled through when I played those videos, you didn't really see what any one of those pieces of content were. You just saw a lot of content. It's a very normal experience for each of us every day on our feeds, right? And we process that. Tina, the consumer, processes that very quickly. I scroll through, and if I see something that actually grabs my attention, I slow down my scroll. And I'm intentionally showing these on phones because everybody's doing it on their phones. They're not mostly looking on their desktops. I'm intentionally showing this with sound off. So nobody's clicking that sound on in this environment. So if any of you right now are on your phones in this meeting, you're not going to turn the volume on, right? So this is what's happening. This is the consumer space that we're living in. How do we stand out? So I'm going to show you a couple different examples from the American Cancer Society. Again, these are ours and they're very specific to us, but I think they can be relatable, and you guys can start to see, again, be thinking, what channels are my customers on? What message am I trying to break through? So the first example is a program of ours called Road to Recovery. So 2 different ways that we've delivered this content. The first 2 slides you'll see. So Road to Recovery is a program that we recruit volunteers to help drive people to and from their cancer treatment. They can't get to treatment on their own. They don't have someone else in their life to drive them, or that person can't take off of work. There's so much that's just like, there's so much support that needs to rally around the cancer patient as they're going through this that it becomes really hard. So we have volunteers that, let's see if I can get that to play again. We have volunteers that we want to recruit to do this. So this is a really simple explainer video. We call it an explainer video. What do you need to volunteer with Road to Recovery? Real simple. So this might be delivered on Facebook. This might be delivered on Instagram. You'll see nice and big takes up a big volume of lots of space on the screen, right? So it's taking up a lot of space. So between the feed that I just showed you, a lot of that content was really small. This one hopefully is going to stand out. Same thing with this next one. So when I said it's a little bit more about storytelling, this is Chris. He's actually one of our volunteers for Road to Recovery. So this is a story format that we did. We did it on both Instagram and Facebook, but it just shows Chris meeting the person, her getting into the car, them hugging each other, and a little bit of a pull quote from Chris telling us exactly what this means to him. Right? So who is that in your space? Who is that whose story you can tell for your brand that's not you? Right? They've experienced your brand, they love your brand, it has made their life easier, simpler. Have them tell your story. Right? And put that in front of your customers because it just resonates a lot more. And what we find when we tell those kinds of stories is we get a lot of engagement with that content. We get a lot of people that are like, go Chris, this is so awesome. I'm a Road to Recovery volunteer too, and they talk to each other rather than us as a brand talking to them and at them. This next one is Relay for Life. It's one of our biggest programs. It's a fundraising program, but this is a way to sort of just show how we're trying to tap into the inherent capabilities of these tools. So this is an Instagram story that we've done for Relay for Life that's showing, again, real people that have really participated at our events with custom Giphies. Does anybody know what a Giphy is? Yes, yes? Stickers. Stickers that go on top of your content. So I could take this picture myself and I could put this animation on top of it via Relay. So now I'm also giving my consumer themselves the ability to, and this is just instructional telling them how to do it, giving them the ability to brand themselves for the American Cancer Society. So that one might be a little bit more of a stretch for some of the folks in this room because that might be a lot to ask, but maybe if it's done in the right channel, that's not a lot to ask. So what are we doing to give our client, our customer, a way in which they can self-present for your brand? And is that by making them look smart? Is that by making them look good? Is that by giving them really innovative information or really quality information in an article that they can share on their personal LinkedIn and say, I got this really information, this is what's happening in the space, this is where I'm cited to work for the company that I work for. Whatever, but putting that content in front of them and thinking about what they're trying to get. Again, we're back to that consumer Tina and what she's going there for. What are we doing to help her show herself well to her friends and family and her connections? The last one does have volume. I'll let you watch a little bit of this.
Are you all right?
Wow! When I was 26 years old, my mom called me and said that, my dad hadn't been feeling well. I went to the doctor.
My husband was diagnosed with leukemia in 2004. And that just kind of was like the roof caved in on all of us.
I had an opportunity to go to Nashville with a songwriter. I was supposed to leave about 3 days after my dad got diagnosed. So I felt it my duty as a son to help my mom out and be there for my mom and do what I could for my dad.
It was a dream of his, just that one day he might be able to move to Nashville and write music, and things just didn't turn out that way. Cancer is a family diagnosis. It's not just the diagnosis of a person, it's a diagnosis for an entire family.
So that's a little bit more of I'm forgetting his name now. They just said it and I wasn't reading his name, but that's a little bit more of his story. But that's the way that we showed not only Chris's, I'm going to say his name is Chris. Did anybody pay attention and read the name? Was it Chris? Thank you. I'm confused because the other guy's name is Chris. Chris's story, but also a partnership, right? So did you see Chevy prominently featured in that? Did you see the NASCAR race prominently featured? Did you see Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s face pretty early in that video? This is how we're trying to get that consumer to stop in the feed, right? So someone who might resonate, Chevy is a big partner of ours. Chevy sent this guy to the Daytona 500, and he got this really cool behind-the-scenes experience, and he's one of our relay volunteers. He's raised a lot of money for us, and it was a great way for us to sort of highlight him and his story and his family story, which has been a crazy one. They've had a lot of cancer in their family, but also highlight a partner, and also use a celebrity influencer to bring people in, right? So trying to find ways in which we can deliver all of these content in a way that, again, that consumer Tina is going to be like, oh, what is this? Dale Earnhardt Jr., what are we talking about here? Right? And that's where that sort of influencer marketing comes in. So 2 more pieces that I want to show you, just because these are kind of like, again, sort of really showing how this can be done without a lot of heavy lifting on the side of the brand, right? So if you're thinking, okay, that's great, but how do I actually get this content? How do I create these videos? I don't have a budget. I don't have a designer, or maybe you do, but even with all of that, how do you get these content pieces to be really strong in the way that we're talking about? So this is a piece that I'm going to share about a family called the Kramer family who actually lost their daughter, Maddie. This one has volume, but I don't think I can hear it. So it's probably too small for you guys to read, but you'll see that there's copy over the video completely where it's really Scott and Pammy Kramer telling their story about their daughter who had gone through cancer. And one of the things that is the most sensitive is when there's a topic like this that's particularly heartbreaking, pediatric cancer. How are we as the brand not just putting ourselves out there to look like we are monopolizing on the loss of a child? Right? That could be perceived really, really badly. And we don't want to do that at all. We want to support the families that are going through this. So what we did is we actually just reached out to this family, the Kramer family. They're a wonderful family. They were like, what can we do to help? If any other family is going through this, we'd like to help. And so we sent them some questions, and we had Scott and Pammy put their iPhone up on their couch or kitchen table and take some videos. We sent them the questions. We were like, just answer these questions. They sent us the answer to those questions. We sliced it together with pictures of their daughter, Maddie, and what they would tell to someone who was going through a cancer diagnosis in their family with one of their loved ones or one of their children. And it came together to be this really beautiful piece. And so it was really a light lift on our side that we did. And then we just said, hey, if you're going through a cancer diagnosis, we're here for you. And if anybody else wants to share their story, here's a place to share it. I promise you can find ways to do this, even if you don't have a big budget, if you don't have a video crew to send out, that there's ways that there's people that are your customers that have actually gotten value from your brand. Just ask them to do a testimonial video for you. Put the pieces together. Have them show what it is that you've done for them.